Hello and welcome to the Women's Empowerment Summit 2020. Today I am blessed to have Jen Coffel with us. She is a speaker, an author, and a business coach with over 2 decades of experience and a proven track record of 6 and 7-figure success in traditional businesses, direct sales, and nonprofits. Thank you so much for joining us today, Jen.
Thanks for having me, Alyson.
So I guess I'm going to start out with sort of what started you on the journey of being a coach and helping empower women.
Well, I started my entrepreneur journey about over 20 years ago. I used to be an occupational therapist by degree, and my first business I started was a driver rehab business. I taught people with disabilities how to drive. And I think I got my inspiration for entrepreneurship from my dad. He had a limousine business growing up. So when I started working in the hospital and just starting to get the itch that I wanted to be at my own, driver's rehab was what attracted me because it was giving people their keys to independence. And what I've come to learn about myself is one of my core values is freedom. So I look back on that and see why I was attracted to that. But in that process of building the business, I built it to 6 figures in less than 12 months and loved what I was doing. But I had tried for 6 years to have children, and we unexpectedly had the opportunity to adopt a little girl. And so when I did that, I decided to sell the practice and thought that what I sold it for would be enough money to get me through while she was, toddler until she got to kindergarten. I thought in my mind I would go back to working in some capacity when she was in kindergarten. But then 5 months into having her, we had the opportunity to do IVF and we got pregnant with twins. And then they came, she was only my oldest Madison, she was only 14 months when the twins came. And then lo and behold, my body started working and then I got pregnant by surprise. So there I was with a 3-year-old, 2-year-old twins, a newborn, and the money that I sold the practice for that I thought was going to get me through this time when they were, little was gone. Adoption's expensive, IVF is expensive, kids are expensive. So we went through all the money and we were struggling financially. We were making less than $1,000 a month from compared to what our bills were. So we were putting a lot of money on a credit card every month. And then that was starting to snowball. And I was quickly seeing that there was going to be no way out of this unless I go and find some other work that I could do around my kids, because I didn't want to put them in daycare. And I thought, 4 little ones in daycare is going to be super expensive anyway. So I really needed to find a business I could work from home. So it's a long answer to how did I, fall in love with coaching people, but it was in that second business. I actually built that business to 6 figures in less than 12 months as well. And I made over $25 million in sales and was really successful and totally discovered my joy for really helping others build businesses in that process. And so then I went from there to actually looking at doing a coaching practice. And I had a coach once say to me that kind of birthed this. I'm a multiple business owner. Like I love business. So I've built 4 businesses at 6 figures in less than 12 months, all in different industries. And she said to me, she challenged me and she said, you have to have some methodology that you're doing in order to have that type of success, because everything that you've done is all different types of businesses. And so there has to be some method to this. And I really didn't think there was. I thought it was just like the way I thought or the way I did things. Like I couldn't put my finger on it, but she challenged me to figure out that methodology, because that would be really the special thing that I could go out and like really coach others to do. So it took me about 1.5 years to really like pull that out and figure out what that blueprint was. But once I did that, then I, decided to start coaching other women that loved being able to, I'd have the idea of like being able to be free to build whatever business they wanted to build on their own and take their expertise, like whatever they're really good at, and be able to do that. And what I've discovered is a lot of women are really great at certain things in terms of their expertise, but then when it comes to actually building an entrepreneur business around it, that's where they struggle. And so I've totally enjoyed helping women to be able to, learn how to build an entrepreneurial business around their, like what I call their core genius. And in the process of doing that, one of the strategies that I have found in all my businesses that have helped me to grow them quickly is speaking, and using speaking as a marketing strategy. So that kind of led me into some of the other work I do now in terms of speaker training as well. So that's a long answer, Alyson, because it's a long journey as to how I got to actually be coaching women. But that's actually what the story is. So.
But that's awesome though, because sometimes out of that panic, we have to come up and use our creativity in such a way that gets something done. And as women, we do that. But then it was also interesting that you said, I didn't even know what that blueprint was, because we do get into a point as women where we just do. And then
Yes.
we don't really think of it as something that we can share because it's something we do almost on autopilot.
I call that your core genius. I don't know. I know that you are a lot about empowering women to like step into their divinity and what they were created for. And for me, like if you take those two words, core and genius, I think your core is what you were created for, and your genius is what you've studied and become an expert in. You put those two things together, and that's where like the most special things happen in your life. And if you're willing to step into that, and to your point, I find it's oftentimes hard for women to even know what their core genius is, because like me, it was just something you just naturally do, and you don't really think of it as anything special, but it is actually the thing that makes you special because it is how you think, it is your perspective, it is your unique, passion and your way of approaching things in life. So.
That's true. And I love that. I love how you said core genius and what it means, which is really good for women because sometimes we don't think of having a genius, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, it's just something we do. So, and something to need to be celebrated for sure.
Mhm.
And what
Definitely.
about things around like intuition and mindset? Does that play a part in how you coach women?
Well, I think mindset comes before skill set. So it's an important element. I have a course I put together that I give as a gift. I'll share that with your listeners as well. But it comes from the book Success Principles, if you've ever heard of that, by Jack Canfield.
I love that book. Yes.
Me too. So there's 67 principles that he teaches, and I pulled out 17 that I really found to be the most transformative in my life and my businesses. And it really is the powerful, those principles. And so I love giving that away because I believe that belief inspires action. And when you're not taking action, it's because there's a lack of belief. And so I call this little course an instant belief builder kit, because it really does help to, step into that and have that faith and that belief, because your thoughts are based on your beliefs. And, if we can change our beliefs, we will change our thoughts, which will change our feelings, which will change our actions or inactions, which will change our results. So I'm not a mindset coach, but I do deal with that occasionally when clients come up against something that is keeping them from working on the strategies and more of the results focus that I have in coaching. I'm really more results orientated and helping women make the money that they desire to make. But if their mindset is getting in the way, then definitely we need to address that. And I do personally a lot of mindset work. That's definitely something that I've noticed and have come to 100% believe that, we do, like anything that's in our life, we have created that in some aspect. And so it's crazy how powerful our mind is, our subconscious mind and our conscious mind, how those work together.
It certainly is, especially even in doing this summit, because there were days where I'm like, who am I to be doing this? So we do have to work on that a lot for sure. So when you mention money too, and women's desire for money,
Mm.
I've noticed I've coached a lot of women who they almost go to just a little bit above what they're normally making and say that'll be good enough. They
Mm.
don't think that they can make a 6-figure income or even a 7-figure income. Has that come up at all
For me, or just for women I work
for
with?
you or for women you work with?
Um, so I was very blessed. My dad, who I was saying that helped me to be inspired to build an entrepreneur business. I watched growing up his relationship with money, and it was very healthy. He was super generous, and he always saw money as a tool. He didn't have a lot of emotions around it, like some people like have grown up with, this. There's a lot of money mindset stuff that people can get from their parents and from friends and family and church and all kinds of places we can get our beliefs around money. But I was very blessed with my father's heart and mind around money. And it was beautiful to watch. And it's been something I think that served me really well. I really believe that the more money you have, the more you can help people. So I personally, I don't struggle with the idea of having a lot of money. Like my personal goal, like I say every day, I'm so happy and grateful now that I'm earning in excess of $1 million a month from multiple revenue streams in a calm, confident, and heavenly way. So I say that every day, multiple times a day. I write it every night, multiple times. And I really believe that I'm going to enjoy that. And the reason that I'm motivated to do $1 million a month is because I really desire complete and total freedom. Complete and total freedom. Like I want to travel privately. I want anything that comes in front of me during the day that I could meet a need, or I could I could have the choice of whatever I want to do with whatever comes across my path. And I believe if I had $1 million a month, I would be completely free to do whatever. So that's the motivation for me. And it's really linked to my core purpose in life, I feel. So this is kind of, again, a long answer to your question, but I feel like my core purpose in life is to bring light where there's darkness. And whether that's in business or in spiritual things, like I love to share and help people step into what they were created for. And if I could be free to be able to meet needs and position people to do things faster, and all kinds of things motivate me. Like I'll be that person that when I watch The Voice or America's Got Talent and somebody is standing in their truth and they're doing what they were created for, and they're not like feeling self-conscious, they're just beautiful. Like I will be brought to tears, they could have no teeth. They could be just up there looking, just so centered in who they were created to be and doing what they were created to do. That I love that. And I love discovering people that know what they're created for and helping them to get there fast. So as far as like money though, and that mindset around money, like that's a little bit of my back history as far as like where I get mine from and like where I think and where my mind is in terms of wanting to make the kind of money that I want to make for the reason I want to make the money I want to make. But I think it's an enormous issue. The idea around money, the mindset around money, the thoughts around money, how we feel when we have money. I see people that will even subconsciously sabotage themselves because they have beliefs around money, like it's wrong to have money, or maybe I had a client once, if you want me to share a story about money mindset, how the impact, would that be helpful?
That would be very helpful. Thank you.
She had hated her job, and she was working a business. She had an essential oil business, and she absolutely hated her job, and she wanted to quit. And so when she would get to making about $3,000 to $5,000 in her essential oil business, she would think about, okay, if I keep making this, I could quit my job. So then shortly after she would hit that mark of 3,000 to 5,000, then she would dip back down to under 1,000. And then she would think, I'm not going to be able to quit my job, because if I'm making less than $1,000, I'm never going to make enough money. Now I might be able to pay my bills. And so she would go through this whole circle in her mind, and then she would be miserable that she was still in her job. And she kept doing this, and this didn't just happen one time. This probably happened to her 5 times, where she would get to 3,000 to 5,000, drop down, 3,000 to 5,000, drop down. And so I saw that pattern, and that's a huge red flag of somebody that's self-sabotaging. And it's because of like their mindset around money. So I asked her to do an exercise with me. And I said, how about if, you and I just sit down and we're going to come up with 10 adjectives. You give me the 10 adjectives. When I say rich people are, what comes up? And so she said things like, they hold people down. They're arrogant. They're condescending. I mean, every adjective she gave me was really negative. Every one. There wasn't one that wasn't super negative. And so then I said, okay, well, how about poor people are? And then she said, oh, they struggle. They're open to help. They have a hard time. It was just like things that really was more of a description of herself. And none of it was super negative. And so I showed her, and to me, it was like very obvious that, she didn't want to be arrogant, condescending, hold people down. She didn't want all these things that she identified with rich people. And she did have a goal, though, of making 6 and 7 figures. So it wasn't that she didn't want to do that. It's just that she had this subconscious belief. And so I asked her, who do you know that's rich? And she said, my dad. Now her dad is who was her boss at the job she hated. So her dad ran the company. And so I said, well, do you see what I see here? That if this is all these adjectives, what you relate money to, having money because of your dad and how his attitude is and how he is as a person, like that, when you start making money and you start dreaming about leaving your job and getting them to 6 figures and 7 figures, like you are self-sabotaging because you don't want to be seen or known as arrogant or condescending or all these different things. And so I said, I have a challenge for you. I want you to go into your company and I want you to actually interview and talk to people that are making 6 and 7 figures, like get to know them. What do they do with their money? How they live their life? What's their personality like? And then come back and like, we're going to have another conversation about this. So she did that. And she said it was absolutely life-changing for her because she realized that, she didn't have that awareness that was going on, but then she went and saw all the amazing things that people were doing with the money that they had. And I told her, I'm like, yeah, if your dad was a big jerk before he had all this money, guess what? He's just a bigger jerk. And, that's the same thing with, money makes you more of who you are. So, if you're going to be generous and kind and loving and you have money, you're going to be more generous, kind and loving. And so she really was able to internalize that and recognize and change that paradigm that she was dealing with. And it resulted in, a few months later, she got back to the 3,000 to 5,000. She didn't go back down. She quit her job. And now she's been building her business now for years and she loves it. And she's super happy and she's making 6 figures. And she's doing amazing. And so I think that, this is a great topic to talk about because money is a powerful force, and it can do a lot of like messing with your mind, especially like you brought up, I don't know if it was before we started our interview or if it was during our interview, but you brought up the climate that we're in right now, the economic climate, and with the coronavirus and all the changes, that have occurred for some people, this could be an especially hard time. Maybe you weren't struggling with your mindset around money a year ago, but now because things are very different, like that could have brought in a lot of fear and, a different perspective that isn't serving you well, but it's a reality that you may be dealing with, right?
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you brought up the fact that you define it as a resource because money is just a resource, but we do have so much emotion around it. Who has it, who doesn't have it, who gets it, who doesn't get it,
Yeah,
when there's abundance for everybody. So it's
totally. Yeah,
definitely an inside job.
for sure. Yes, it is. And then, I find that the best way, like if you're struggling with that, I start to identify where are the sources that are giving you fear, and then maybe like put some boundaries around that. If it's the news and it's, media, like maybe limiting a lot, like say substantially how much that you're allowing in listening to that. Choosing to put really good content in your mind, like watching and listening to inspirational videos and reading and listening to books, like all that will actually help you have a healthy thoughts around money and really feed yourself good thoughts. That helps a lot.
That is great. And you mentioned books. Is there a book or two, anything that jumps out that is one that you've loved to read around money or business or
Well, I talked
empowerment?
about success principles, and then I also, one of my other favorites is The Go Giver, and then just as this one's in my office right now that I love, The Power of the Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. That's a really great one. Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich and Success Principles are my two like foundation books. And then Go Giver was a big influence at the very beginning of my business career in terms of just approaching business as a giver. But then The Power of Your Subconscious Mind is more of a newer focus for me and my readings around just how our minds are created. We have a subconscious mind that truly drives so much of what we believe and experience. And like, how do you reach that and
Sure,
shift?
because a lot of what we do as adults is programmed before we're 7 years old. So it sits in the subconscious, regardless of whether we know it or not.
Yes, yes. But we have the power to change it, which is the really exciting thing about everything that we experience in life. Pretty much everything we experience is fixable. If there's an experience that we're having that isn't desirable, more often than not, it is fixable and there is hope. So sometimes it's just finding, the right person that has the answer. I think a lot of times I learned this, a few years back. Like I used to think that it was maybe a system or there was something on the outside that had the answer. But I think oftentimes the answer is found within us or in talking to another person that has the answer, to maybe a system or a process or a connection or a resource or something like that.
I agree because I love collaboration. And that's the one thing in the group coaching that I do, I love because people can ask you questions you wouldn't think of or point things out that, you really didn't see. So I do love that process, especially having a coach and being able to, knock those things out of the park that have been holding back and not being successful in areas. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you would like to share with the group?
Um, Related to,
Oh, you did mention your course.
yeah,
Wanted to talk to that a little more.
yeah, the Instant Belief Builder course. We can put the link for people, but choosetimeandfreedom.com is where I have that sitting for free. You can go and download that for free and get one principle in your inbox every week for 17 weeks. So it's a nice way to kind of digest it. But it's a video of me just talking about that principle and some application questions. And I have some quotes and screensavers and things like that. But that was like my little love project just to encourage people because I know how powerful belief is. Anybody that knows me, one of my favorite sayings, which we've all heard 1,000 times, but like I totally live by this is if you believe you can, you can. And if you don't, you're right too. So it's so important that we have the belief because I think it's the one thing that entrepreneurs can not really even recognize is the thing that's holding them back. There's so much power in belief. And if you're struggling, oftentimes it's a belief issue because you don't believe something's going to work, right? You might not have clarity on what your next step is, what the next thing is, like what's the next right thing to do, so that you don't have the belief that what you are thinking of doing is accurate or going to be the best thing. So then you don't do it and you procrastinate or you're questioning. So I think there's a lot of that happens, which is why I feel like getting solid in that area is so powerful. And then, for those that, are your listeners that are looking for some support in being able to grow their business to 6 figures or add 6 figures even in less than 12 months, I'd be happy to get connected and have conversation. And I have a little questionnaire that they could fill out. It's at jencoffel.com/breakthrough. And then if they fill out that questionnaire, I can schedule a time that we can talk and get to know them and their business and then see if there may be a way that I can support them and help them.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Jen. It's been such a pleasure getting to know you and what you offer women. Thanks again for your freebie. I'll definitely make sure it is in the link below. And thank you for women for joining us. This is Alyson and Jen Coffel today. Thank you.